Hello, welcome back to the ministry. So, what the Lord did was, I was last night awake listening to something. He had already put my heart to listen to it the day before, but I didn't. You know how we get when we get ever so slightly disobedient. I'd heard to listen to it, didn't listen to it, waited until like 1 o'clock in the morning to listen to it. But had I not waited till 1 o'clock in the morning, I wouldn't have been awake when this happened. Randomly, somebody outside of my building started playing Jordan Sparks' No Air. And I think it was just the car that parked at the light was blasting the song as it was passing the apartment building. And this was like 1:30, 2:30 in the morning. And I'm like, I wouldn't come on here for it had I had not heard this song before and I felt something. But I didn't do a review on it. Then, when I felt it last night, it was like an unresistible. I couldn't stop making the chill go through my entire system the whole time that song was on. And I said, okay, I got to do a review on this song because something here. And I started to write something down in relation to it. But before I get to that point, I want to go through the song as it is. Now, my history with this song is I remember back when it first came out. I feel like it was like 20 years ago, but I think it was like 10 to 15. And I remember it came out during, God's been bringing all the old songs I used to listen to when I was like in my early 20s, late teens, coming out of high school, going into college, all them songs. He's been having all those songs, which was like 20 years ago. It's like God's doing a supernatural reset of my life from that time frame. And I'm like, oh, okay. Even the joy and the love that I felt at that time, it's like God's bringing it back around, but he's resetting it for the person that it's supposed to be for, if you understand what I'm saying. So the song came up, and this is what he revealed to me. So we're just going to go through it as he showed me. So it starts off, tell me how I'm supposed to breathe with no air. I got this revelation after listening to the song as it was passing me on the street. I was listening to this video, which remember I said I was up listening to the video. One of the people the person that was proctoring this sermon experience made the point of saying that when it's time for you to come out of an old assignment, you will feel so exasperatedly uncomfortable that you will feel suffocated within that place. And that's not the first time I heard the suffocating thing, because I think I was listening to Stephanie P recently, and she was talking about how you start to feel suffocated because of the oppression to attempt to keep you where you are. You feel like you can't breathe. And I think there's a dualness to this, because some of our spouses have been dealing with certain attacks on them that has brought forth false evidence that appeared real, that led them into anxiety, that made them feel like they were probably having actual panic attacks, that made them feel like they could not breathe and they were suffocating. Okay? So with that being said, there's a level of not being able to breathe in the season in which you're in because you're not supposed to be there much longer. That's not where you're supposed to remain, or has been a consistent attempt to keep you where you're supposed to move out of, and it's a stagnancy that has allotted you to feel like I can't breathe here. Okay? So there's that. 11/11, you're in a transitionary season. Okay. So with that being said, if I should die before I wake, it's 'cause you took my breath away. Losing you is like living in a world with no air. Oh, some of your spouses, and I'm going to be honest, some of them have felt like they didn't want to live. Not so much because they were just plainly understand the spirit of desiring to take your own life is a spirit. That's a spirit. I have heard leaders, some of the best leaders that I listen to, have said under the pressure that they have had being the leader that they are, they have thought about it. But there was a spirit. And I remember having a conversation with an old friend of mine, and she was making a point of saying, during that same season, I was talking to her about something else. She said, I experienced it too. It's a spirit that has been trying to blanket the atmosphere, it's specifically in this time and in this season. And some of these men have gone through this because they couldn't find their way out. And I was listening to something the other day, and they were making a point of saying, the problem is a lot of us be trying to find our way out of things that God said, if you give it to me, I would help you get out of that thing. And because these people have operated in a state of pride, it is that has given them that desire to think that they could do it by themselves. And the Lord was saying, you can't do this by yourself. I need to help you get out of this. This is why God called his daughters to pray for the spouses, because they're the ones that have been dealing. And it's interesting. God has brought a sequence of videos to me today, and Stephanie P was talking about the video she just released this morning. Literally was talking about there has been a wanted desire for people that are in high power industries that are walking with him to be framed, to be talked about, to be all of this kind of stuff, because of the fact that it's trying to stifle. I'm seeing, this is what I'm seeing. I'm literally seeing this. I'm seeing, you ever seen an old candle? It's a copper thing that's on a stick that they use to smother a candle. They use these in the temples back in the old biblical times, but they also still use them just to smother out candles, regular size long candles. And that in itself speaks to the fact that the enemy is trying to smother our voices, smother our ability, trying to, she talked about in another video about putting people's minds in coconuts that literally would discombobulate their thought process to make them desire to not be here no more, because they can't function in the confusion that the enemy is attempting to send as darts toward their mind. Okay? Now, with that being said, you, as their spouse, the one that's been standing in the gap, they know that when you're praying, they feel a difference. They feel a difference in the atmosphere, the atmospheric effect, the way that things are happening around them. Maybe they feel stuck or blocked or unable to move. But every time you start praying for them, every time you start consecrating for them, every time you start doing something for them, they start to feel like they can move again. They start to feel like they can breathe again. They start to feel the anxiety leave them again. They feel the panic attacks no longer attacking them anymore. They feel the symptoms of the witchcraft that's been aimed at them to make them sick, to make them whatever. Stop. They don't feel it no more. Why? Because you've been standing in the gap. And because of that, what did he say? it took their breath away, and the thought of losing you is like living in a world with no air. In all actuality, to not have you in their life, the peace and whatever was brought atmospherically against them that they felt break because you were standing in the gap for them, they can't live in a world without that. They need that. So what's next is, I'm here alone, didn't want to leave. Some of your spouses, and the Lord showed me this in relation to mine, that there's something that they were working on, that the word tarry came before me. I was looking up something on my phone in relation to the Strong's Concordance, and I saw something, and it was talking about to tarry longer than you should. It was a number sequence, that's what it was, and it meant to tarry, to not move forward at the time frame in which you were aligned to move. So some of your spouses were tarrying, not wanting to leave where they were, to come to you for whatever reason it was. My heart won't let me move. I'm incomplete. Wish there was a way that I can make you understand. Okay, so with that being said, for some of these men, it's almost like their love and desire and want to be with you has left them in a state of frozenness because of the fact that they don't know how to truly express what it is that they want to say to you, but not being with you has left them in a state of incompleteness, and they don't know how to explain that to you in a way that you will understand it. Go figure. Anyway, so here's Jordin Sparks' part. But how do you expect me to live alone with just me? Ooh, I'm going to get in this in a second. Because my world revolves around you, and it's so hard for me to breathe. Okay, let's break that down line by line. So, how do you expect me to live alone with just me? Some of us, because of us walking in this journey for kingdom marriage, we are looking in a duality of, God, how do you expect me to do what you have called me to do along with just me, with the weight of the expansiveness of what you've given me as an assignment? How do you expect me to do that alone? And the duality is, your spouse is the living representative of who God is in this world. How do they expect, if they don't show up to be who they are and are supposed to be in your life, for you to be able to do what you're called to do, that is called for the partnership of your kingdom marriage, is not going to work. With that being said, because my world revolves around you, there's been several words released. And this is why the enemy has tried to keep your spouses away from you. Some of you, the weight of the mantle of your calling and what it is that you carry cannot be done without your spouse. It revolves around the two of you being together. It's not because, oh, I just need a man. Oh, I just need this. No. What you're called to do, if it doesn't have that physical representation of God's covering of the anointing of your mantle, it ain't gonna work. It must be covered. Yes, you have God to cover, but what one of my ministers always says is, when God needs to bless you, He will bring into your life a person. Your spouse is the person. You're not going to be able to get that thing to work. Whether it be that the person is supposed to be sent into your life as a momentary release or of a blessing. Example, Elisha. When he went into the Shunammite woman's life that day after she made a place for him, he prayed a blessing over her that she would have a child, right? For her grace and her desire to favor him. There are moments that certain things in your life will never be released until that person comes across your path. No matter how hard you try to get that thing to work. It revolves around the obedience of the other individual coming forth. This is why you see in the Bible when Elisha was in the cave and he was talking to God, and God said, I got 7,000 other prophets. Was it 7,000 or 5,000? It was a large amount of prophets, between 7,000 and 5,000 prophets, or 5,000 and 7,000 prophets were out there. Meaning, he could call anyone at any point in time. But when he's giving you an assignment, he'd rather you to do it. And it's funny because the teaching I was listening to last night around between 1 and 3 in the morning, the woman was talking about how a pastor, she was telling a story about how this pastor had gotten a calling by the Lord that kept telling him, I need you to go do a deliverance process on this individual that is in this place. God will tell the individual who they're supposed to go see, what they're supposed to go do, and when they're supposed to go do it. But some people will act as a Jonah and say, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to what have you. Because they want to be insubordinate. The guy was literally sitting there, and the fact that God was calling him and saying, I need you to do this. He kept telling him, and the guy was saying, I can't do that. I can't go there. I can't, Jonah. Until God literally put him in the belly of a whale and turned him in the direction he told him that he needed to go. Some of your spouses, God been telling them, can you go over there and do what you're supposed to do? I done told you you're supposed to go over there. I done told you you're supposed to go there. I done told you you're supposed to go over there. And the way that the woman told the story, she was literally saying that God would not leave this person alone. It's like, he's like, I'm doing something over here. I'm tired. I got to keep finishing this assignment. You done gave me this thing to do. And God told him, no, I need you to go over there. And he was like, but I don't have I need you to go over there. Some of you have been called to do certain things, but the individual that's supposed to help you has been tarrying. And because of that, you have what? Felt suffocated. It revolves around you. It's so hard for it's hard for you to breathe because you're stuck in a place that you should have left because you are in the midst of a delay because the other person is tarrying because God's been tapping them and saying, hey, go get them. And the person saying, I can't leave yet. And God saying, I need you to go down. But I need you to go. I'm doing this over here. It's funny. I crossed the video and I don't often listen to Trust that much anymore, but it popped up and I listened to it and she was talking about some of these people have created excuses as to why they're not going to go do what it is that God told them to do. And God's taking away their excuses, no matter what that excuse is. Oh, they're going to burn the plow and they're going to go where God said go because God said go. Why? Because the thing that needs to be done revolves around them being obedient to do what it is that God told them to do. Period. That was not supposed to be part of this word, but hey, I had nothing planned. God knows what he's saying. Anyway, tell me how I'm supposed to breathe with no air. Can't breathe with no air. It's how I feel whenever you aren't there. It's no air, no air. Got me out here in the water so deep. Tell me how I'm going to be without me. If you aren't here, I just can't breathe. It's no air, no air, no air, no air. So you and this person are both suffering from suffocation because of the fact that, one, they're dealing with warfare trying to snuff them out to prevent them from being able to move, and God's saying, I need you to just move where I'm telling you to go. You're out of air and oxygen because your assignment is pretty much running out here. And I talked about in a word previously the glory cloud moving. This may be a word that pops up before or after this word, where I talk about the glory cloud. And because it's moving, you're starting to feel this deep down discomfortedness of sitting in the same space. Because why? Your oxygen is leaving. And it's interesting. The Lord's bringing me this revelation. I talked about the fact that I had seen a commercial for a television show, and they were dealing with a fire tornado. Fire does what? It consumes oxygen. Catch that. When you're in it. It lives off of the oxygen within the atmosphere, but consumes the oxygen, burning it off in the fire, quickly taking it away. So if you're in a tornado of fire, it's sucking your oxygen out. Your assignment is coming to an end, and the glory cloud is being prepared to be moved. And because of that, your oxygen is moving with it. Catch that. So with that being said, how I feel whenever you aren't there. We know, they know, we feel this intense longing in the midst of our separation. I remember Stephanie P doing a video a while back called It's Unbearable or something like that, where she talked about the sensation or the feeling of it is unbearable, which would also make you feel like what? You can't breathe. It's no air, no air. Got me here out on the water. Some of you have been listening to God's will for your life and walking on water towards what it is that God has told you. You've done things, you've gone places, you've experienced things, expecting God to move in this manner, but you're not seeing the result, which needs the other half of you to be present for that result to be made manifest. But you've been walking on the water like Peter. I think that was Peter. Yeah. That you've been out so deep. But tell me how I'm going to do without me if you're not here. How are you going to do what God called you to do without the partner that's supposed to help you do it? No air. So, moving forward, I walked, I ran, I jumped, I flew right off the ground to float to you. There's no gravity to hold me down for real. It's funny. God gave me a dream. Oh my goodness. He gave me a dream about a week ago. I saw Whitley and Dwayne Wayne. It was weird. I haven't quite figured out the interpretation just yet, but she was staying in a house, a very nice house. It actually reminds me of the house that she was in just before she married Dwayne. Come on, God, shut up. She was living in this nice house, and he came to her door. They sat and reminisced for a certain period of time before he left the day before her wedding. But I saw him put on these shoes. They were tennis. And it's funny, I'm being reminded of a word that Call Me Ruby did that talked about the fact that God's giving you the ability to run or new shoes or something like that. And she had sneakers. And he took off running. It was like, there's a old cartoon. I forget what the name of it is. It's like uh lightning something. Speed runner or something. I can't think of what it is. But that's what I saw. Your spouse is going to be able to run at a speed that he could not move at before without you once he comes to you. And the same thing will happen to you. So fast. I'm like Roadrunner fast. You can't even see him if he's not standing still. Which reminds me of the Kim Possible reference I always give to you about the fact that if you're running so fast, you feel like you're moving slowly, but everybody else sees you moving at high speed. So there's going to be a level of freedom that comes with coming into alignment. Because once you are in alignment, literally the love that they feel for you and you for them is going to make them feel like they are off the ground. And there's no gravity holding them down because of the fact that they are now in the fullness of the alignment of the relationship that they're supposed to be in with you. Now, on the flip side, but how am I still alive inside? You took my breath, but I survived. I don't know how, but I don't even care. Some of us, because of our assignments in this season having ended, and God having given us this kingdom promise, there are moments that we can't even breathe in relation to this thing because it's a part of it that is so attached. And I was talking to the Lord about this previously. There's parts so that's attached to your spouse. There's answers that you don't have. There's knowledge. My people perish for the lack of knowledge. Your spouse has knowledge that you don't have, and you have knowledge that they don't have. And the spaces in between where you don't have those pockets of knowledge can be answered by the other person when they show up. But you can't breathe until that empty space is filled by them and what they carry to fill those spaces. This is why the enemy tries to keep them away from you, if you didn't know. Anyway, so it repeats. Yep, it repeats. So that's pretty much the end of the song. It goes back through the chorus again. Pretty much talking about how you expect me to breathe without just me. Then it goes through the no air, no air, no air about 8 times. And then it comes back to how am I supposed to breathe with no air? And the reference to the water again. And then it brings you back to being out on the deep. And the last chorus. So that's the end of the song. So I believe I expressed what the Lord was trying to say. Some of you are feeling suffocated because you have not received or reached the manifestation of what it was that God wanted for you. Your marriage. And it's funny, even that reference of the understanding that Dwayne came to her the day before. She ended up marrying. That was her God-ordained spouse for the prevalence of that show. Your spouse is coming to bring you the answers, the knowledge, the understanding, and you're going to marry them. And you're going to take off. You're both going to take off. I'm reminded of the scripture in Revelations. In Revelations? Yes. Where the woman came out of her 1,000 260 days. Some of y'all been in isolation. And she came out with wings as eagles and took off. When Elisha came out of praying for the rain, he girded his loins and ran as fast as the chariots. You're going to take off running, but you need each other to do so. You may have the wings, but they have the feet to run. You're going to go together. That's a whole word in itself. I'm going to need to write that down. I'll be back with that, okay? So, I hope this bless you. Until next time, bye-bye.